Hey everybody, I'm PJ, and this is my Mohawk and Headphone Jack warpless speedrun in 41:15. I should give a quick motion sickness warning before this gets too deep into the crazy stuff. This game can be really disorienting, and I don't know, it doesn't really seem to follow any trends. Some people that do get motion sickness, like in cars or on roller coasters or whatever the case may be, don't have trouble watching this, but other people who have had no history of motion sickness feel sick or queasy or whatever when they watch. So, especially for those of you who are brave enough to risk the shake corrected video, I would urge you to pause the video and step away if you're feeling nauseous or dizzy or whatever the case may be. But that aside, this is Mohawk and Headphone Jack. This is it's a really interesting platformer, almost puzzle platformer, for the Super Nintendo. This was released in, I think, '95 by Black Pearl. But this game was programmed basically entirely by D. Scott Williamson, who is an absolute magician. He was able to get this game to run without significant slowdown. He had to actually make his own compression and decompression algorithm to get this game to run the way that they wanted. So for instance, during these teleporter things, the game is constantly unloading and reloading different parts of the map as you go. And when you understand the full scope of these maps and how huge they truly are, it's nothing short of miraculous that this game runs at all. So there are some drops in frame rate here and there, but this game is pretty outstanding. So the whole goal of this run, or rather the whole goal of this game, is to recollect the CDs. So Mohawk here is our protagonist, and player 2, he looks just like Mohawk, but he has pink hair instead of green. His name's Headphone Jack. They're of the race or clan or species, whatever the case may be, called Morph, M-O-R-F. And the Morphs have had their music taken away by General Headslot. He's the dude there with the inverse mohawk at the bottom, the blue guy with the red hair. So, Mohawk is going to travel to all these different worlds to recollect the music so that the Morphs can resume their normal funky way of life. That's it. That's all. So this game is broken down into 7 worlds, and then a boss fight at the end. Each world has 2 stages, and the first stage is just like a CD collection stage. So the stage is enormous. Usually the first stage has some sort of puzzle aspect. Well, I shouldn't say usually, but generally when there is a puzzle aspect in the world, they cram it into the first stage. And then the second stage of each world is a boss fight. And in the boss stages, you don't have to collect any CDs. But if you collect 100 CDs, then the exit will be marked on the map. Or rather, the boss fight will be marked on the map, so you know where to go. But if you already know where the boss is, you don't have to collect any. For the other stages, you do have to collect a certain number of CDs, and it's different for every single stage. So for World 1, Stage 1, you have to collect 100 CDs. This is World 2, Stage 1, or Jungle 1, or 2-1, however you want to think of it. We need to collect 200 CDs. So the whole purpose here is to get to 170 CDs in this stage in that center area. And now we're going to, in the grand scheme of things, this is the southwest of the map. And there are exactly 30 CDs that we can collect along the way. So we had 171, we were 1 CD ahead of pace. So we skipped 1 down there to go a little bit quicker. Just to explain things a little bit further, in the HUD, which is, I guess, all over the screen, our health is at the bottom. The little circling Dorito thing. So I have 4 health right now. You can have a maximum of 5. To the right of the health are my extra lives. They're the Mohawk symbol things. So I have 6 lives. Bottom left is CD count. Upper left are the explosion attacks, charges of explosion attacks. It's a full screen explosion attack. You'll definitely see it in this boss fight. in this run in particular. And the upper right is score. Score is of no use to us. So, this is a boss fight. We don't have to collect any CDs. So what you see me doing to skip these CDs is rolling into a ball. So, this game's controls are actually surprisingly good. So you have two different jump buttons. One is called leap and one is called jump. Leap is your big jump, like this one. It's when Mohawk does like the backflip thing in midair. And then jump is a much shorter jump. But your only attack... Well, no, you have two attacks. So you have the full screen explosion attack, which you can do a limited number of times based on the explosion things. And then you have the rolling into a ball. That's your only means of doing damage consistently. And one side effect of doing that is that you can't collect any CDs or interact with checkpoints or power-ups. Alright, I'll continue that later. This is the most RNG-heavy boss in the entire game, and this run's pretty good. Actually, this run's really good, but the major time loss is this boss. This boss cost me around 10 seconds? So he has three different attacks. He can do the attack he started with the these things. And you can't attack through those. Those things have priority over your ball attack. He has other sparkles that you can attack through. The ball will just dissolve those. And then he can fly around the screen and drop sparkles that you can also ball through. So he gave me the worst possible attack 3 times, which is extraordinarily rare and very bad. But I made the best of it. Alright, so the reason I avoid collecting CDs in the boss levels is because the score tally at the end of the stage, I think it's like 2 frames per percentage. And turning into a ball doesn't cost you any time, so I want to skip as many CDs as I can just to save a few frames. It doesn't amount to a whole lot, but it's worth doing it. Alright, so this stage is World 3, Stage 1, or the Wetlands, Stage 1. This is where we start to see swimming. And this stage is a really, really hard one to route because there are pockets of lots of CDs that don't really flow well together. So it's hard to come up with a route that was really efficient. So this is the same route that I used 4 years ago. And I guess it's worth mentioning that I returned to this game as kind of a quote reward for my stream. After we reached certain tip milestones, so to speak, I vowed to go back and improve some of my old speedruns that were requested. And this one won one of those competitions. So I chose the games were chosen randomly by a baseball simulator tournament, and this won one of those tournaments. So that's why I went back to this one. My old time was a 44:01, so I spent a few weeks trying to figure out how to improve my time and completely rerouting this game to save over 2.5 minutes. So it was a pretty substantial reroute. So yeah. Much of this game is using my 4-year-old route and then combining it with things that I found just recently. So in this stage in particular, most of the route was my 4-year-old route, but the swimming section was completely revamped. And I scoop up the CDs in a different order. I have some better momentum preservation, carrying my momentum from land into water. It's just much smoother. So that stage is about 15 seconds faster on its own. Underwater there's one power-up. That's the Lagoon Monster power-up. So basic Mohawk can swim, but he has an air meter, which is just the palette, Mohawk's palette. He turns progressively more blue as he starts to drown. But when you collect the Lagoon power-up, this one here, he gets webbed feet and kills, and he can't drown anymore, and he moves a little bit faster underwater. Alright, this boss is the Octopus, or Gorillapus. He's a problem to fight, because when you hit him, he will either not counterattack with a head smash, which he is more likely to do when you're above him, of course, or he'll counterattack with ink, and the ink takes priority over the ball attack. So if he uses that, you're guaranteed to take damage. And when you are in iframes, like right after being hit, you can't damage the enemy. So you lose a lot of DPS when you take damage, and there's no way to avoid the ink when you point blank him like that. But that was really good RNG, and it was really good execution, so that was a great stage. We are now in the mechanical base, and these two stages are really, really interesting for a number of ways, or for a number of reasons, rather. This stage has something on the order of 29 or 30 different teleporters. So trying to figure out the optimal route for collecting CDs here is really, really tricky. And this is a complete overhaul from what the route used to be in the past. And I use one wall clip, basically the only wall clip in the entire game, to get around some of the teleporter mazes. So this stage centers around this one area. This stage is kind of set up as like the core of the stage is this middle part, which is like a big square, and it has like a heart-shaped section in the middle with 4 teleporters in it. So this is a heart-shaped part in the middle. That's one of the teleporters. And then everything else in the stage just kind of wraps around it and forms a perimeter for the level. It's really, really cool design. But our main priority is to go into this area as early as possible, because this is a really, really dense area for CDs. Lots of CDs very close together. So that's the wall clip. I got it first try, but I didn't have an optimal landing. Ideally, you'll land on the right triangle here, instead of landing on the bottom area. But it was a first try clip, which is pretty tough. And I didn't get slingshotted by gravity. So that's pretty good. The goal here... Oh, I should mention, these jumps are not normally possible, but this game has a trick where if you're hugging a wall, at any point when you're moving vertically, your momentum is increased. So if you're jumping, and you jump next to a wall and hug the wall, you get more height. If you're falling, and you hug the wall, you fall faster. So you can use that to make some rather unintended jumps in this game. It's really, really handy. So the main goal here is to leave with somewhere between 187 and 191 CDs. 188 is right in that pocket, so it's okay. And there's a rather tricky jump here off of this square. Now, I want to make sure that I don't get pulled into that teleporter, the one I landed directly on. Because that's the beginning of a teleporter maze, so you have to intentionally choose the wrong one. And it costs like somewhere in the order of 5 seconds or 6 seconds if you get pulled in there. One of the major inconveniences of this game is that a really, really minor execution mistake can cause a ton of time loss, simply because of how the momentum works in this game and how the gravity works. So you can miss a jump by just a few pixels and get pulled into a completely different gravity field and end up on the other side of the stage. Alright, so we had 233 coming to this section, so we're going to end with exactly 250, which is what we need to end this stage. Alright. Now, 4-2, or Mechanical Base 2, is probably the most technical stage in the game. It's essentially split into 3 sections. There's the entire bottom section, and then there's a top, 2 top platforming sections. And there are 3 ways to get from the bottom to the top, and the fastest way is to collect this bird power-up and fly up there. But collecting it in the first place is tough, because you have to do a leap of faith into a gravity field over instant death. And then you have to fly, and I take my bird power-up all the way to basically the end of the stage. And these power-ups are on a timer, so my execution has to be really, really tight here. And this is a precision platforming section where you're supposed to be jumping across, but since I was able to take the bird here, I can just skip the entire thing. And then I use another glitch that I found, which allows me to remotely collect a power-up. So if you're using the explosion attack and then your power-up timer... Oh, I use the wall physics I abuse that to jump a little bit higher, and it skips like half of this section. Yeah, so if you use the explosion attack when your power-up timer expires, the explosion attack instantly ends, and it turns your hitbox into like a full-screen hitbox. So I'm able to collect that wheel, even though it's on the far side of the screen. I'm able to collect it because a piece of Mohawk was over there when the explosion animation ended. So it works in your favor, and it also works against you if there's like a flamethrower or something lingering and your power-up ends. Alright, so that fight looks really sloppy, but tanking damage there doesn't actually cost you any time as long as you are consistently hitting the boss as early as possible. So, right after I hit the boss, I'll take a hit from something that I won't be able to dodge, so that my iframes are expired by the time the boss is able to be hit again, so I don't lose any time. So that was a really good 4-2. That was as close to perfect as you can really expect. We're now in the Guts section, World 5, Stage 1. And this stage shouldn't be problematic, but it really is. There are lots of instant death hazards, and there's lots of, like, really tightly packed gravity fields. And I suppose I should mention how the gravity works in this game. This isn't manual. I'm not intentionally reversing gravity or something when I jump. This game is programmed to handle 250,000 unique gravity vectors per stage. And, it's like 16 gravity vectors per tile. And the moment that Mohawk crosses into a different gravity field, it takes effect. That's it, really. So as you're running around a corner, just imagine loads of tiny little arrows pointing directly into the corner. So as Mohawk is running, gravity is constantly being readjusted for him. So that's how the game handles rotations and stuff like that. This entire section, the gravity is always pointing down. Right here, the gravity is always pointing towards this island. And then when we leave the island, we have to, again, struggle to find which gravity field we want to get pulled into so we can navigate. And here again it follows the terrain, so we have to kind of float around as a blimp and find where we want to land safely. It's extremely disorienting at first, but when you understand how it's laid out, or like how the system works and where the different gravity fields are, it becomes pretty intuitive, which is a scary thing to say here. This section in particular is one of the worst for motion sickness, so I've heard. It's just lots of really rapid changes of direction. It's pretty rough. But this section in particular is really important to try and conserve health. There are a few damage boosts that save a lot of time, so we don't want to take any unintentional hits. And the last checkpoint that I hit, checkpoints in this game are the yellow circles, by the way. The last checkpoint that I hit was at pretty much the very beginning of the stage, so it's like a 1.5 to 2 minute time loss, depending on where you die. There are no checkpoints in this entire maze section. We have to get through 3 of these. So, in this stage we need 300 CDs to open up the exit. And, oh wow, that was actually a really good reaction to hit that cannonball. Some of the flamethrower guys shoot cannonballs and some of them don't, and I would have gotten hit there, which would have made things a little bit problematic because there are 2 damage boosts I need to take at the end. It would have made my health situation pretty tight. So yeah, I need 300 CDs. The goal upon leaving this is to have around 277, 278, I think that would be perfect. Unfortunately in this route... Oh nice, I managed to miss all of these skewers, that's extremely good luck. Alright, there's the 2 damage boosts. Yeah, so I have 274 here. There are 2 clusters of 5. Or I think it's a 5 and then a 6, and then there's a few at the end. So I just have to pay attention when my CD count is this low, pay attention to the CD collection at the very end of the stage. Alright, so these pipes, there's nothing you can really do. You have to take them. You literally cannot skip the pipes in most of these stages. Oh, oh, I forgot that that happened in this run. Oh, that is unfortunate. Wow. Well, good save. So, I carried a whole lot of momentum into an attack. And when you do that, you bounce off really, really far, and my recoil actually pulled me into a different gravity field. And I didn't know how far away it carried me, so I just had to kind of quickly get my bearings and see where I was based on the terrain, and based on which enemies were around, and then make a few more leaps of faith. One more missed jump there, missed death by just a few pixels, and we're out. So that stage is extraordinarily scary, and things can go wrong really, really quickly, just from the smallest of margins. I think overall it was 6 or 7 seconds off of essentially a perfect stage. Stages in this game are never really perfect in the speedrunning sense, because you can always save time from these minor optimizations, but this game is just impossible to optimize. This game operates at a precision level beyond humans, essentially. So, yeah. Trying to actually pay really close attention to your times in this game is infuriating, because you can lose time from seemingly nowhere. I've had stages that had no execution mistakes that finished 4 seconds behind my perfect stages, and it just doesn't make any sense. So this again is a boss stage. The boss of this stage is Skeleguts. Unfortunately, there's only one way to get to his room, and it's by taking 2 really, really long pipes. So if I remember right, this stage is somewhere like 2 minutes and 10 seconds to 2.5 minutes, somewhere around there. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's over 2 minutes. And about 80% of that time is spent in a pipe. And there's no way to speed that up. So we take that pipe to get to this room. This room has 40 or 50 CDs just in rows, and it's extremely laggy. And then we have another pipe. This one takes us down to the boss. So this boss has got 3 hitboxes, or 3 targets, however you want to think of it. It's got the ribcage, which is the one that you want to kill, and then it has 2 heads. And the ribcage doesn't give you recoil. Well, not significant recoil, but hitting the heads will make you bounce off. And whatever the gore at the bottom is, the bones, another skull, whatever that stuff is that I'm standing on, that stuff hurts you if you touch it. So, I don't know, it's a bit awkward to manage your positioning and your hits to hit the ribcage optimally, but that was a pretty good fight. Alright, this is stage 6-1, or Mines 1. This is my favorite stage in the game just because of the complexity. And words really can't describe how complex this stage is. You really just have to see the map of it. But the short form is that there are 9 switches in this stage. I think it's 9. And a grand total of 14 fireballs. So there's one solution for this stage. If you don't abuse invincibility frames, you have to hit the switches in a certain order. But hitting them in a certain order takes about 20 minutes. So this playthrough of this stage, I think, is 7:37, somewhere around there. It's definitely no faster than 7.5 minutes, and this is almost an optimal stage clear. So what I did at the very start is damage boost through the instant death firewalls, and that allowed me to hit 2 switches out of sequence. I'm going to do the same thing again for these other 2 switches. So these, the 2 switches that I'm going to hit next. Well, rather, I'll start with the two switches that I started by hitting. Those were switches 2 and 3 in sequence. So by doing that, I only skipped one switch. The switches that I'm going to be hitting here are the, let's see, of 9, I think they would be 6 and 7 in sequence. So what you're supposed to do is, like, hit a switch and then travel to the opposite side of the map and hit another switch. And travel again to the opposite side of the map and hit another one, and then go through a really long pipe or do a fire maze or something. And it's really, really time consuming. So instead, I grab this little guy, I move the camera down so that he's on camera and gets aggroed. I use him to pull me through that first fireball. I still keep him on camera because I have to escape. Hit this switch. That switch triggered twice. You have to keep track of what direction is on, because switches and valves in this game tend to trigger multiple times when you hit them. Use them again to get through this firewall. Hit this switch. I have to delay here because this guy tends to attack through the floor sometimes. He has a magical hitbox. And then one more damage boost to get back out. So there are 4 required damage boosts out of a grand total of 5 health. But 100 CDs is perfect here. And one thing about checkpoints in this stage in particular is that checkpoints save your valve and switch positions. So if I hit that checkpoint before damage boosting in there and hitting those 2 switches and then died, so that I didn't have to damage boost back out, those switches would be deactive. Unactive? They'd be deactivated, whatever. So by hitting the checkpoint there, it saves the status of those 4 switches being activated. So now we're pretty much clear to just go and grab CDs, and I'm not going to hit any other checkpoints in this stage. I want to set up for a death abuse at the very end of the stage, so that I can go back to the beginning there. It's much, much faster to death abuse and save a huge backtrack than it is to not damage boost through the firewalls the second time, because up there is right where the exit is, basically. Coming up is what I call the danger pipe, or tornado pipe. I don't know, it changes names. Essentially, the developers put rotating gravity flags in this pipe auto-scroller. So again, I'm not pushing any buttons, but you're going to see the screen start to spin right when we come around this bend. This pipe is mandatory. So at the end of this pipe is 130 CDs. And you need 350 to open up the exit. The cool thing about this stage is that there's a grand total of 400 CDs. I guess I should mention, in every stage there's a bonus portal as well. And that usually requires a CD threshold above and beyond what is required to open up the exit. So you need 350 for the exit, you need 400 for the bonus. Which means you have to collect every single CD to get to the bonus vortex, the bonus stage, whatever you want to call it. But 45 of those CDs are on the complete other end of the stage. They require 2 long pipe mazes and a fire maze. So it's about a 2.5 to 3 minute detour to collect those 45 CDs, which means that the rest of the stage has 355, and we need 350 of those. So I have to collect basically every CD in this stage. I'm allowed to miss 5. So far I've missed 2. I missed 2, but then recollected 1. So yeah, I only missed 1, and it was on the bridge. So I'm still in good shape. But I know that before the death abuse, I have to have 340 CDs at the very least, because there's only 10 CDs up there. So this is a really, really tight stage in execution. There's one way at the very beginning to make the stage completely unwinnable. You can get stuck on the other side of a firewall with no way to exit. You have to collect basically every CD. Your execution on the damage boosts and the jumps have to be perfect, because all of the lava instantly kills you. You have to have really good management of your health. So it's a really, really stressful stage, and it's 7.5 minutes long. So yeah, it's something. It's a real doozy, but the design is really clever. So you see I turned into a ball there to avoid collecting the big CD. Big CDs don't actually give you any CD value. All they do is they change the music. So there's no individual music for each stage. The music just changes as you collect the big CDs. And then you can push start to use your CD player to access any of the big CDs you've collected and change the music. Unfortunately, when you collect a big CD, it takes like 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds to load. And we don't want that. So in most cases I'll try and roll to avoid collecting a CD. If it's too hard to navigate around it, I'll just pick it up. Or if I need a change of music just for my own sanity, I'll collect it. Alright, here we go. This is a familiar damage boost. This time we're going to go to the left. So we have to hover, hit this guy as we fall so we don't lose momentum, and then fly through it. Here are the rest of the CDs that we need. We're just going to fly up here and wait for wing to expire. And now we're going to platform to the end. And this is also really scary, because missing any of these jumps or getting touched by any enemy kills me. And I would have to do the damage boosts all over again. So, that was an extremely good stage. There were some minor hesitations, and I took some extra time collecting CDs that I didn't really have to, because my CD count was good. But in a 7.5 minute stage, taking 5 seconds to ensure that I can complete the stage is acceptable for me. Alright, so in my old route, I used to suicide at the beginning of this stage to give myself a health refill, and it takes 6 seconds to do that. In the reroute, I don't do that, and I just pray to God that I don't get hit during this blind jump, or during any of these Olympic high jumps. So you only have a few pixels, and you have to try and go over those flames as Mohawk is in his most horizontal position on the jump animation, or else you're hit and you die and you have to redo the stage. This stage is probably my least favorite to play because the boss fight is just horrible. So this is also a really scary blind jump. You don't really know what kind of momentum and what kind of angle you get. You just have to hope that you land on that platform. Alright, so the boss is way to the right here. Everything underneath us is instant death lava. So we have to blimp all the way there, and I'm abusing a blimp mechanic I'll talk about later to get fast flying. Now we're gonna fight him. So this is a sulfuric surfer, and once he's off screen, he will turn around. So I want to scroll the screen in the opposite direction to get him to spawn sooner, and I want to hit him 2 times per pass. The issue is that these dolphins are completely random, and the top of his head is a hitbox. So if I get hit by that, then I lose damage, I lose DPS on his pass. And if he does a handstand as he crosses, or one of his split attacks as he crosses, his fire head will take priority over me damaging him. And you also can't react to the dolphins as they appear. They're completely unpredictable, and they move much faster than you can react. So, whether or not you win is random, and whether or not you win quickly is even more random. That fight in particular was above average, so I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, so this is 7-2, or Nuke 1, or sorry, 7-1, or Nuke 1. This is a really cool stage, and this stage was made much faster. This is the biggest single improvement over my old run, thanks to Absurdity. He's on a quest to complete every Super Nintendo game, which unfortunately means he had to play this one. And he found a way to clip through these gravity walls. So in this stage, it's much like 6-1, except instead of instant death firewalls, they have these repulsor orbs. Gravity walls, whatever you want to call them. So you turn this valve, and the valves will activate and deactivate different repulsor orbs, depending on the valve. Being able to clip through them adds a lot of flexibility to the route, and yeah, it allowed me to save about 1:15 from my previous run, so it was a pretty big improvement. In this stage, I think, let me think, we need 350 CDs in this one as well. So, a lot of collection to come around. Alright, so here it is. We need to tilt the camera. And tilt the camera, stand right next to them, and make some big jumps, and we get through. They're pseudo-random. So sometimes you get them first jump, like I did on the retry there. And sometimes you don't. And it takes multiple tries. I don't really know exactly how they work still, but they do. Alright, so I didn't really mention the power-ups. There are, I think, 5 or 6 power-ups. There's the blimp, which you see. There's the Birdman, which you've seen before. The wheel, which allows you to run faster and jump higher. Spring shoes, which usually kill you. Suction gloves, which always kill you. And the lagoon power-up, which lets you move faster underwater and breathe underwater. The blimp is really, really hard to control. So you just control it with the D-pad, but there's some lag in the movement, and there's some really weird inertia with them, as you might expect. The blimp is also cursed with moving really, really slow, but we can get around that, like I alluded to in the previous stage, by doing what I call fast flying. So, if you're in the air and you turn into a spike ball, you sink. You're no longer filled with air, you're a spike ball. But if you do that, and then I think you have to not hit the floor when you do that, but I'm still not really sure about the specifics. But if you do that, like right there, you now move about twice as fast. And your controls are a little bit more responsive. They're still pretty terrible, but far less so. Alright, so the CD collection route here is pretty tight because there's no backup plan, and I don't actually remember how many CDs I can miss, but I know at this point I've missed like 3 or 4 already, so I'm a bit paranoid. Yeah, it's pretty scary, especially on a run like this, which is quite good so far. Alright, here we go. And we get this one first try, which is great. So yeah, I missed that CD, and I don't think I had to go back for it, but again, I would rather, take 2 seconds to go back and grab that CD than 45 seconds later. Alright, so we're in the home stretch here. I'm gonna grab that health because I like to have full health at the end of this stage because it lets me carry more health into the next level. But I neglected that one health that's right there, so I could have saved that time. 325 is 1 CD more than I need. 324 is the absolute minimum you can have at this point. So I think I allow myself to... oh no, I do grab all of them anyways, just to be safe. Very nice. And I think my platforming here is exceptionally good. Yeah, I didn't get hit a single time. That's really, really rough. And this is the laggiest part in the entire game, because we have 4 flamethrower guys, plus 2 moving gate enemies, plus rotations to handle. But overall, that was a really, really good stage. Alright, so we come to the final stage now, and the final stage is just a total jerk. If you were to look at a map of this, like you get to the final stage and you're so ready to be done with the game, and then you look at the map to try and figure out where to go, and it's just a total mess. It looks like someone just threw handfuls of spaghetti all over the floor. There's something on the order of 30 to 40 different pipes, and all of them bring you different places depending on what direction you hold. So some pipes are straightforward like this one. You enter it and it has one exit. But other pipes are branching, and depending on what direction you hold, whether it's up or down, it'll take you to a different place. And later in this stage, if you're holding the wrong direction or you choose the wrong pipe, you're killed. And in this stage and the previous stage, there are no checkpoints. So, if you die, you have to go back to the beginning of the stage and you have to redo the whole thing all over again. It's not what you want. So right here, there are 10 pipes, 5 on each side. You have to enter the second on the bottom, second from bottom on the left, and hold down to proceed. All of the other ones just bring you to other pipes there. I think one of them brings you back to the beginning or something. The green fuzz on top of these barrels, right there, and right there, is instant death. So I have to make sure that I cut underneath that fuzzy barrel without touching the top of it on the jump to it and the jump from it, or else I instantly die. in these, you have to enter the top teleporter because the other two spit you directly into instant death acid. And unlike the pipes, you can't follow the teleporter's path on the map. You just have to enter and make a note of it later. It's a remarkably mean thing to do. Alright, so this is the end of the stage. I just make a jump here to grab a few extra health. And now we get to fight the Psychic Brain. This fight's really cool. He has two phases. He starts off as a brain in the jar, and we have to break the jar by bouncing back his projectiles at him. And it's really hard to actually get the right trajectory on these. I don't think I missed a single one. Graphics are a little bit broken because of the way I entered the screen as well. Yep, GG's. And now he flies around and shoots these things. The projectiles have priority over the spike ball attack, but I ended up getting hit. Excuse me, I ended up getting hit by him after I hit him in each of those instances, so I didn't actually lose any hits. So that was a really great stage. And now we just have the final boss, who is simply a palette swap of the first boss. So we're gonna fight him exactly the same way. We're just gonna stand inside his sprite and bounce around a whole bunch. I think he shares health between his legs and the cockpit. So every time you bounce around and you hit, both legs and the cockpit, you do essentially 3 damage to him. So I killed him before his first attack ended, and that's about as good as it gets. And with that, we win! Congratulations for defeating General Headslot. Saving the universe from impending doom. I don't think it was that severe. All that happened was that our music was taken. Everyone can resume their normal, funky way of life. So, fun fact, this ending alludes to a special ending. But did you miss something? Try visiting all the vortexes next time. But if you actually do that, it doesn't change the ending at all. It's just a jerk move. I should also give a quick shout out to D. Scott Williamson. He's the main guy behind this, the lead programmer, and you'll see everything he was responsible for in the next screen. But a few years ago, like 4 years ago, after I had completed my first speedrun, I actually found him online, and I sent him an email and was like, "Hey man, thanks for making Mohawk Headphone Jack. I really love this game. It's really awesome." We started talking. He was overwhelmed that I actually had nice words for this game, and he offered to sign my copies of the game. So I sent them to him. He signed them, sent them back. But he also sent me the source code. So I actually have this game's source code with me, and that's how I was able to extract the maps and the gravity fields and passwords and all kinds of other stuff that was really, really helpful. So it was really cool of him to do that, and I'm going to make the maps public. Hopefully it'll help other people get through this game. But he's a really nice guy, and he made a really awesome game, so he deserves some props. And this game's honestly a technical marvel. The fact that they were actually able to make this game on a Super Nintendo is nothing short of miraculous. So, yeah, big ups to them. But yeah, this is my warpless run, 41:15. It's a really good time. It can be improved, of course, but I'm not going to do it. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I got every big trick and just some bad RNG here and there. So, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I certainly enjoyed the routing aspect. Happy with how it turned out. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.